Dean's negative story and Ish's fairly positive story, a little bit of both. Now, as we all know, after 9/11, the civil liberties of all Americans have been jeopardized, but those of Arab Americans are especially vulnerable. As we've already heard, historically, Arab Americans have been an minority, and in sometimes an embattled minority in this country. And their position has always been, as Michael pointed out, especially vulnerable at times of crisis in the Middle East. And as we all know in this room, crisis is a matter of life in the Middle East. I mean, it's a daily event. But certainly after every major war, particularly, for example, after the '67 Arab-Israeli War. There was a flood of anti-Arab racism from both the media and the American public throughout the United States. Now, these threats were primarily in the form of Arab bashing, ethnic intimidation, racial stereotyping, sometimes physical attacks or arson. But after 9/11, you not only had Arab Americans caught in a rising tide of anti-Arabism and anti-Islamic prejudice, but at the same time you had systemic changes to laws and to law enforcement that imperiled the civil liberties of the community. Now, in a poll of Arab Muslims taken by Zogby International right after the 9/11 attacks, 50% of those surveyed reported the community had experienced an increase in discrimination, with verbal abuse cited as the most frequent problem. FBI figures during the same period of time reported that anti-Islamic crimes jumped from 28 in the year 2000 to 481 in 2001, and most of those obviously were in the last 4 months of the year. That's a 1,600% increase. Hate crimes based on ethnicity during the same period of time increased from over 900 to over 2,000. But now keep in mind, to put this in proportion, that was still fewer than the crimes reported against Arab, African Americans, Jews, or homosexuals during that same period of time. But as the FBI also said, the hate crimes against Muslims was undoubtedly much higher than that reported, but that simply many Muslims were so afraid they didn't report the crimes. And now, at the same time you had these kinds of increases, you had the U.S. Patriot Act and the so-called Domestic Security Enhancement Act of the year 2003. This all allowed